What up, though? This is Knockouts in 3 Counts. But before we bring you another episode of Podcast Gold, let me tell you about the homies over at Michigan's Finest. Do you ever find yourself trying to get yourself together and thinking, man, this is going to be a great night, but I'm looking for that little extra something? Well, check out our friends at Michigan Finest. If you are into medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, concentrates, vapes, anything of that sort, Michigan's Finest has got you covered. And as you can see here, it's all easily done by their website. It's all curbside, and you'll be in and out in 2 minutes. And they're family owned and operated, so customer service is their number one goal. And now, since they are rocking with Knockouts in 3 Counts, use the code KO3MF. Yes, that's KO3MF. You get 10% off your entire order, but that does exclude featured items and items that are already on sale. But if you use that code, you're getting 10% off your items, and I promise you, either if you're looking for that big knockout or you're ready to hit the sheets for that 3 count, Michigan's Finest will get you together. Tell them Knockouts in 3 Counts sent you, and I promise you, you're going to be having a great night. Peace.
This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts in 3 Counts.
Cover! We got it, the new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts in 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts in 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, no? It is another Tuesday, and this is the first motherfucking episode of 2023, and apparently it very might well be Shark Week soon, too, because we've got the return of our guy, Mark the Shark Irwin, and I need to get on your level with this fucking coat, dude. How the hell
Dude, look at the glasses, too, man.
Dude, Conor McGregor, eat your fucking heart out, dude.
Right,
Mark the
man.
Shark will teach you a thing or two.
It looks like
I
he's
was
still
gonna say, I'm
partying,
always
still
on
partying
brand.
for New Year's Eve or something.
Yeah, right.
You know who he'd get along real well with? He'd get along real well with Joe the Party, bro.
Yeah,
That's true. What a party that would be, huh?
right. That's a
I
nickname
thought I
right
was
there.
stepping up my my game this winter with picking up all the Sherpas and shit, but you got me killed with the fur, man.
Yeah, dude, you and Joe the Party would be interesting because he came down here to fight our guy, Austin Bashy, and let's just say he made a few fans, mooning the crowd on the way out to the cage, flipping the crowd off, having people wanting to hop in the cage, bro. He was, if we're talking for our pro wrestling fans, he was definitely playing the heel role very fucking well that night, although Austin Bashy came out with the dub. Then he comes out and ends up all over Masvidal's shit on that Icon Fighting Championship and wins a fight against the undefeated Moldovan kid from ATT 2 weeks later. So you know what? Shout out Joe the Party. I guess that's just how the fuck he rolls. But if you guys are new here, hit that subscribe button and you can go check all that shit out and learn all about it. But we've got plenty to talk with you about here tonight with Mark the Shark. So before we get into what you got planned for 2023, I mean, dude, you had quite the knockout, which is a good part of the reason why we're talking about this. But before we get to that, the last time we talked to you was fresh off of when you were when you had your big win at BKFC. So before we get to that, take me a little bit through what happened after the BKFC fight. How did we end up with BYB, and how do you like the transition so far?
Yeah, so after my BKFC debut, we had a knockout on the Wichita card about a year ago. I had a couple fights fall through, and I got tired of waiting. BYB came in with an offer we couldn't refuse, and I couldn't be happier about the transition. I absolutely love fighting for BYB Extreme Bare Knuckle. They've treated me like a rock star the whole way, and it's a top-notch, world-class organization, through and through. So really happy to be one of the new emerging stars of the organization, and I can't wait to get back in the trigon again here soon.
Yeah, it seems like both organizations are really vying for that top spot, and honestly, both putting on really quality products too. I mean, we cover both of them pretty regularly here on the show, and BYB, I mean, they kind of came out of nowhere more so. It seemed like they didn't necessarily have the backbone, but once you've seen their like actual shows and events they were putting on, the talent that they had working the desks and the mics and stuff, making all the calls and stuff. You could just tell that they were making a real push. And then to your point with the whole trigon thing, they did their best to try to add some type of innovation beyond just the bare knuckle aspect of it. So I really personally like what BYB's got going on for them, man. I feel like they're an organization to definitely keep your eye on.
Absolutely.
Hey, so did I read this right? The trigon is actually the smallest combat ring in the world, right?
That's correct. It is the world's smallest combat sports surface. It's 22 feet by 22 feet by 22 feet. And not only that, but the corners themselves are extremely tight. They're 60 degrees instead of 90 degrees like in a traditional, squared ring. So you can't back up in the trigon. You take 2 steps back and all of a sudden you're on the ropes or in the corner and it's not where you want to be. So it definitely forces the action and makes the fight a lot more exciting in that respect.
You think that's something that works to your advantage? Just like tight punches in the corner like that?
I can fight going forward and I can fight going backwards. In BKFC with the circular ring, it definitely lends itself to being able to back up. You can keep circling and turning forever if you know how to use your feet. And in that fight, I definitely use my footwork to draw my opponent onto some shots. Whereas in the trigon with BYB, it's all offense, and offense is always my first nature. So it lends itself well to me, but I can fight any style, any surface, any size ring. It doesn't matter to me. Circle, square, triangle, on the top of a mountain, at the bottom of the ocean, on the moon, at the deepest reaches of outer space, the deepest depths of hell. I don't care. Anybody, anywhere, they can get it.
Say, bring it all, man. Bring it all.
Look, that's the clip. I like it. Anytime, anywhere, you can get it. I mean, watching that knockout, bro, Pro Gonzalez was liking the leopard hair over there, bro. Like you were, you're doing your thing, making yourself stick out with the look and all that. What you mentioned the trigon. Before we get off of that, tell me a little bit about that. What was the biggest transition with the trigon? Do you like it better than the circle ring that they had in BKFC or opposed to a regular square boxing ring? How do you like fighting in that now that you've had, your foray here into BYB Extreme?
Yeah, so I've fought in all three. I've fought in professional boxing. I've fought in squared rings. I've fought in the BKFC circular ring, the squared circle as they call it, and I fought in the trigon. Honestly, I like the trigon because it does force the action, because it does have 3-minute rounds. Highly unlikely you will ever see me go past the second round. I promise you that.
Yeah, very understandably so, man. To continue upon your point, I guess, with the trigon and the way it really, from an outsider's perspective, the way it affects some of these fights, man. You'll see guys that are traditionally really well with their boxing defense and stuff, but they get caught up in them corners, man, and they go to circle out, and you just see like they hip off of the ring ropes, and they're like, I'm not ready. Like, all of a sudden they're catching the hooks from different angles and shit because they weren't ready for it. It's just, it really does add a different aspect to it for anybody who hasn't been able to check it out yet.
Yeah, you can't back up. You know what I mean? You got to go forward.
Another thing I wanted to ask your thoughts on, you came from BKFC where they're doing, they have their own app. That's how you see all of their fights. It's all in one central place. That's where they're streaming everything. What are your thoughts on BYB Extreme so far with them being on YouTube and everything like that? Do you think that gives them an advantage because that's, giving you guys a wider audience, to see it because you're not having to pay for it and all those things? Do you think that's something that they'll, kind of always adopt? Or do you think eventually we could see them go to like their own app kind of thing as well?
Yeah, so I fought for both. I feel like I got a lot more exposure fighting for BYB because of the fact that it was on YouTube. I got, a couple 100,000 views on that fight. Whereas with BKFC, you're behind a paywall. And so sometimes that does inhibit viewership a little bit. But ultimately, we'll see what happens. I know BYB has been working on a couple different things behind the scenes. It's not really my place to speak on it. But I definitely think it's going to be a huge year for the BYB Extreme Bare Knuckle. And I can't wait to be a part of it.
I like it, dude, because, now, with the emergence here of BKFC and now BYB Extreme, now you have multiple, bare knuckle promotions here in the country. At first, you really had bare knuckle FC kind of pushing through. Now with BYB kind of making that second platform here on YouTube, and with we've already mentioned, with having that triangle ring, which makes them kind of stick out. I mean, it's only going to make things better as they go, and they're already starting to bring names over, as Desmond Green, who we saw have a nasty knockout in the last event, who came over from Bellator, somebody who, hint, hint, wink, wink, you might have to see on this show soon. But with that being said, you guys are continuing to gather talent. What are your thoughts on BYB Extreme? Is there anybody in particular that you're looking for, or is it just that anybody can get it?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, anybody can get it. I know Seth Schaefer called me out. I'd be more than happy to oblige him. We can fight at 145 for the title. I know I've heard him talk about coming down to 135 and fighting for the title. Everybody knows that that's my division, and I'd love to welcome him down to it if he'd like to fight for the inaugural 135 belt as well and try and become a double champ. I'd be more than happy to be his dance partner. But whatever it is, we just want to fight for the belt. Right now, we're looking at April for our comeback. And, I'm excited. So I'm in the gym. I'm working hard. I'm getting ready and preparing to put on another knockout of the year performance for you guys.
Well, as you talk about the
main thing is that title, like you said.
Right. Get that belt, get that paycheck. With that being said, you mentioned the knockout of the year. First of all, what does it mean to you to have the knockout of the year for the promotion? And second of all, what are your thoughts now that you're removed from that fight? How do you feel about it now that you're removed? And what are the biggest things that you took away from that fight?
Yeah, it's a tremendous honor for me to finish the year of 2022 winning the Knockout of the Year award. It was definitely something that I had as a goal of mine, going into the year-end awards. And knowing that it was a fan vote that decided it, it wasn't some internal decision made by the organization, but the fans themselves voted.
I was not aware of that.
Is everybody's favorite fighter, as it turns out. So I'm tremendously honored and humbled, by that distinction. As far as the fight's concerned, I thought it was a strong performance by me. Obviously, I dropped him with the first punch that I threw. I dropped him with the second punch that I threw. And I was able to get him out of there with the left hook in under 2 minutes. And mind you, this is an opponent who went 5 rounds with David Diaz in BKFC and lost a split decision. It was a very close fight that could have gone either way. And this is someone that should have been credited with a knockout of David Morgan in his BYB debut, when David Morgan took a knee after getting blasted by punches in the clinch and then told the referee that he couldn't see out of his eye as a means to get out of the fight. So this is someone that very well could have been 2-0 with a knockout on their record, but due to unfortunate circumstance, was not the case. So I think he's a more credible opponent than people want to give credit. But in hindsight, it was a flawless performance. I went in there and I did exactly what I intended to do. I did exactly what I said I was going to do, which is get that guy out of there in less than 1 round. The shot itself was a devastating punch. After dropping him with 2 right hands, I was able to knock him unconscious with a left hook. So I'm definitely proud to add that to my highlight reel. We're getting ready to go out there and do it again for you guys and come back and be talking about it, this time next year as well, with a couple of belts behind me.
I got the fight on right now. Not gonna lie, I didn't think he was gonna get up from the first punch. I mean, 8 seconds in, he looked broken, dude. Sorry, I'm sorry to say, but he looked broken after 8 seconds into the fight. He looked like he was just out on his feet, man. So
yeah, people always want to say that they think I'm slow, they think I'm unathletic, they think I'm stiff, this and that. They don't think I hit that hard. But when they get in there with me and they feel me, they know. And he knew right away the first shot I threw, that was it. He was on his ass, and he knew he was in trouble from there on out.
Yeah.
So
you could tell his composure and everything changed.
A lot of the things that I'm doing gets lost on tape a little bit, but when you're in there with me,
I like it. Well, we mentioned Schaefer. How do you feel you match up with him?
I think I match
feel
up
about that
well.
matchup?
Yeah, I'm here for it. I'm excited for that opportunity potentially. Schaefer, he's a big, strong guy. He's got a wicked body attack. He's undefeated in bare knuckle. He's got all knockouts. He has a very respectable professional mixed martial arts record as well. I think he's 8-1, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a big, strong dude that is used to winning all the time. So I certainly respect him and his credibility as an opponent. He's, an honorable champion. And, it'd be a tremendous honor for me to get in there and fight him. I think I match up well. I think I'm the better boxer. I think I'm slicker and quicker. And I think he's underestimating me. I think he's underestimating my size and my punching power, as well as everything else. So I'm excited to get in there and show what I can do.
Now, when you bring up the underestimating the size and stuff, do you think that boils down to the 135, 145 thing? Because being the 145 champ, he's kind of looking at it like, hey, I'm going to take on this smaller guy type of thing,
Yeah, I do think that, but I'm by no means a small 135 pounder either. If you look at my BoxRec page, I've boxed professionally at 140 pounds and I've boxed professionally at 154 pounds. In the amateurs, I boxed at 141 and 152, and I won state titles in both of those weight classes here for the California State Boxing Tournament Championships with USA Boxing. So make no mistake about it, I am not a small 35er. I'm a big 35er, and I fill out nicely at 45 as well, So wherever that fight takes place, whether it's at 45 or whether it's for the titles at 35, I think I match up well.
I like it. Well, BYB Extreme, I know you're going to see this. I say book that shit 2023. Yeah. Make Shark Week happen. And I don't know, knockouts and 3 counts could be in the building for that one too. Well, let's take it away from fighting a little bit. Cause like we mentioned at the top of the show, look at this fucking guy. If he wasn't fighting, he'd fit in on the other end of the show with us with pro wrestling. So with that being said, you look like you're still ready to go, like it's New Year's, like it was, Saturday night. So with that being said, what was Mark the Shark getting down with for New Year's Eve, bro?
I went downtown to Huntington Beach for a little bit, had a couple drinks, but nothing too crazy. We're getting back into training mode. So we're getting everything dialed in as far as lifestyle and all of that as well. You know what I mean? There will be plenty of time to drink and celebrate and party after we win those world titles.
That's good to hear, especially, not to, I guess, stereotype or whatever, right? But there's levels to this game, I guess, right? When you're I cannot talk tonight. But when you're considering yourself a professional athlete and trying to take yourself in that direction and be the best that you can, you can, like you say, dress fancy, dress nice, gain the attention through the flashiness and stuff, but then to actually put in the work behind the scenes. And like you say, like, yeah, I might have had a couple, but it wasn't like I really went out and had a crazy time on New Year's. I wasn't out partying because I was focusing down on what I have lying ahead. It's a real interesting mindset thing that you hear from so many of these guys we have on the show.
Yeah, I consider myself to be one of the absolute best in the world at this sport, and I train and prepare accordingly. I have world championship level coaches, training partners, strength and conditioning coaches, and we work like a world champion professional. So we're very serious in our preparation and our dedication. No one works harder than me. You can work as hard as me, maybe, but you definitely can't outwork me. And if you're following me on Instagram, I'm always in the gym. I'm always doing something in the morning, at night. I'm doing recovery in between. This is not 9 to 5. This is 24/7, 365 is the championship grind.
You heard it here. He's putting money in the bank. And if you got money in the bank, make sure you're checking out our other sponsors, G3 Payroll, Tax, and Accounting. Make sure you tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. Check them out on Facebook. You can get your taxes done for free. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you and get your shit together for tax season, because I know I can't wait for taxes, because I just spent a lot of money to come to LA for WrestleMania. So I'm just saying, I'm going to be in California. Me and Mark the Shark need to link the fuck up in Cali, man. That's what I'm talking about.
Call me.
Kyle,
let's get at it, dude.
Could you please spend some of your tax money on some of those glasses like he has, please?
Bro, you think I don't? I just want everyone to know. I went
Stunting.
all out when we went to Cheapy Creepy, bro. All I'm saying is who else you know is going to buy a pair of fucking Tom Ford glasses just to go to a fucking Halloween party and then take said glasses into the mosh pit and send a motherfucker flying? All I'm saying. I'm just saying.
That
Had to tell people what time it was. And the glasses survived. My knee almost didn't, but we're all right.
Very risky move. Very risky move, by the way.
Hey, bro, risky, but we made it, bro. Just back in that bitch like HBK. But with that being said, we talked about you having the KO of the year. I know you're an avid fight watcher. I know you're a student of the game, and I know you pay attention to things. So for you, what were some of your favorite fights in 2022? What did you think was knockout of the year? Who did you think maybe had the year of 2022 other than yourself?
Well, yeah, besides myself, probably my favorite fight that I've ever had the privilege of watching live would have to be Ricardo Franco versus Laurent T. Nelson at BYB X Biloxi Brawl as the co-main event of the card that I opened. I remember sitting there ringside next to Uncle Creepy Ian McCall, my coach, and we were absolutely losing our minds sitting there watching that fight. It was world-class technical bare knuckle boxing at its finest, a world champion versus a world title contender, just going to the death, back and forth, with highly technical skill. That probably takes the cake for me. Obviously there's a lot of great fights between BYB, BKB, BKFC, so there's never a shortage of great fights, but that one would probably have to be my favorite, besides my own, of course.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing that had slipped my mind. The relationship, I guess, with BKB, how much do you think that helps the BYB brand as kind of like a universal growth when you got the one branch kind of working its way, building its popularity over in Europe, importing fighters over here, same thing with BYB, exporting fighters to over there, and same type of thing. How do you think that relationship's helping to build both promotions?
I think it's incredible. I am a big fan of all combat sports and especially bare knuckle. I study it closely. I watch all the organizations. I watch all the fighters. They have a great style of bare knuckle boxing in the United Kingdom. It's a very technical.
It's definitely different, isn't it? It's
a lot more boxing centric, right? There's a lot less dirty boxing. There's a lot less clinch work. It's, forbidden in the BKB. So it's a very skillful type of bare knuckle boxing. And the Brits do it as well as anybody. So I love watching that organization. I love that we have fighters going back and forth in cross-promotional bouts. It lends itself to a lot of exciting matchups that we wouldn't otherwise get. And I really think it helps grow, not just BYB and not just BKB, but bare knuckle as a whole by being able to give fighters those opportunities and give the fans the opportunity to see matchups that they otherwise could only dream about. So, we've been talking to the organization about potential crossover fights in BKB in the United Kingdom or fighting internationally for BYB as well. So we're excited about that. First things first, I'd like to fight here stateside for the title and then look to either defend it or fight for another title overseas.
Hell yeah. That's always one of the dreams, right? If you're going to become a professional athlete, man, got to take them talents and make them travel, and if you can go overseas with them talents, man, that's always a cool thing to be able to show off,
Yeah, one of the reasons one of the many reasons that I wanted to become a professional combat sports athlete was to have an opportunity to travel more, and I've had the opportunity to fight in Mexico, Kansas, Mississippi. I've traveled all over the country, attending different events in different states with bare knuckle promotions. So it's been a lot of fun to get to travel the country and the world, going to these different shows, seeing them live, fighting, coaching, Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Oh yeah. To spin it back real quick, how you were talking about the guys from England and stuff. Do you think it just kind of boils down to a culture thing, right? Boxing being so popular and so prevalent still over in Great Britain, England as a whole, really. And where in the States, it's MMA centric. And then you have like certain pockets, I want to say, of boxing heavy, hardcore boxing fans and stuff over here. But for the most part, it seems that MMA has kind of taken over in the dominant combat sport, where in really all of Europe, for the most part, it's still boxing. Boxing's still number one. Do you think that's what makes the biggest style transition when you talk about the BKB guys and stuff?
Well, a little history lesson. So prize fighting actually originated in the United Kingdom in the 1300s. It was born out of hand-to-hand combat defense techniques that the British military was using. They had a system of grappling, and then from that they developed strikes, which delineated into its own system of fighting, being boxing, which became prize fighting, and they started putting on bare knuckle boxing events in the UK in the 1300s, and remained, the national sport for, really still is to this day. Obviously, they instituted the glove rules in the late 1800s, but bare knuckle boxing was born in Britain, and it is alive and well and thriving in the culture and has been since then. So I think that certainly is a big part of it. And then I think that the rule differences, being more of a boxing purist sport with no clinching, strikes only, definitely lends to a little bit of a stylistic difference. You see a little bit more footwork and movement, I think, and obviously a lot less of the inside fighting and the clinch work, the dirty boxing, and that sort of thing.
All right, that and that's the thing. That's one of the biggest things I liked. Like we mentioned, you had your fight in BKFC. I like the use of the clinch because it's kind of a mix of both, and that's something that's cool with BKB, and that they're staying kind of true to that British style, which is a little different from what you see here in the States. Again, why I think the same is like we talk about to spin it to the pro wrestling side that we talk about all the time. I think the more companies and more different styles that you have, I feel like it brings a more of a diversity to fighting as a whole, the same as it does in pro wrestling. Many people that are going to tune into this are going to end up wanting to see what we've got to say about Wrestle Kingdom and all those things, as we're seeing two of the top stars from America are going to go over there and show up in Japan tonight. So like I say, I think it's a good thing that we're seeing all of this, the same as we just saw Bellator versus Risen. Yeah, over there at the Saitama Super Arena. That was a badass event. Reminded me of the old Pride days. So I really look forward to seeing what we can see with some of these collabs and things like that. But something else I wanted to ask you about, with you, again, being somebody who watches all of the combat sports, what are your thoughts on all this stuff we're seeing with the whole, the more of the eyes that we're seeing on betting with what we're seeing with the UFC and all that stuff? Because it just keeps seeming like things keep seeming to be out the woodwork. Like, we have the UFC fight January 14th. Last week's guest, Jimmy Flick, is going to fight Charles Energy Johnson. And there was a huge spike in the numbers on that one. Charles Johnson was a slight favorite, and it's ballooned to like minus 500 or 600. Yeah, like just over like within a few hours. So, and there's no injury, no nothing like that. What are your thoughts on all that? Do you think that it's something that could be damaging to the sport, or do you think it's something that'll kind of blow through?
I think that gambling and the emergence of it in sports, and especially combat sports, will actually only benefit the sport because it just brings more interest, right? And it brings more dollars, and where there's money, there's going to be more shows, more events. I personally, I'm not a gambling man myself. The only thing I gamble on is myself. You know what I mean? And that's when I bet on myself to go in there and win every time. But I don't spend my money at the, in Vegas. I'm not a gambling man. I don't play cards. I don't play craps. I don't bet on the fights. I don't bet on football, nothing. You know what I mean? I'm just training.
Man makes his own luck, man. You could tell.
Yes, sir.
I like it, man. That's the way to be. Make your own luck in this business, man. That way, you made it on your own 2 feet. Well, with that being said, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing you step back into the BYB ring. Is there anything else that you want to that you got going on that you want to plug or chat about or anything of the sort? Because all I know is I'm waiting to see Shark Week. So BYB Extreme, when you see this, which I know you're going to, just let us know when you're going to put the shark back in the ring. And Mr. Schaefer, I know we've talked with the fine people at BYB about you coming through. So if you have any type of retort, you know, the doors are always open. So like I say, the floor is yours, Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, you know, like I said, I'm hoping to talk to the matchmaker here by the end of the week. We've had some conversations about getting together and talking about names, dates, and locations. I'm looking for something in April, so that should be the plan. I'm hoping to have something a little more substantial to report here in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for news on the next episode of Shark Week.
I like it, dude. It's Shark Week, you know, it never really was my thing, but this kind of Shark Week, I feel like I'm going to be tuned in. Well, you guys need to be tuned in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because you never know who could be coming through. You know, a little birdie told me that the Kick Demon Janai Kai might be coming through soon. You've also got the American Kaiju Miss Lindsay Snow might be coming through soon. A whole lot of things that you might need to see, along with last week's guest, Jimmy Flick, who will be stepping into that cage January 14th for UFC, making a return to the UFC after a 2-year hiatus after he retired. So, like I said, there's plenty of good things to come from your friends over here at Knockouts and Three Counts. Make sure you check out Michigan's finest in G3 payroll and tax and all those good things. And in the meantime and in between time, you know what to do. Hit the damn button. Peace.